first realm to make its presence known to our universe was from a reality that had long gone extinct on our world. The people of core Earth were in awe when the lost antediluvians resembling our prehistoric time periods were unleashed upon the planet. The great surge of transformation reawakened the distant past, changing the modern world into a place not seen by our Earth in millennia. Nature itself assaulted the Earth with a rejuvenation of growth that rapidly spread across the land, decaying and distorting anything unliving in its path. As the alien vegetation flourished and spread, anything organic that was touched by it also began to alter into long-forgotten greenery, or archaic creature of the ancient world. What was once bygone thrived anew and brought with it great danger as the organisms of the dead era competed for territory on our Earth. The revival of our Cosm's primeval essence altered the environment as new unnatural elements distorted the landscape. Plants that have never existed in our history sprang up in the wash of reality, bringing all manner of unknown flora and ecosystems to the land, both dangerous and medicinal. Within this thick, dense jungle, the very land came alive as it convulsed in earthquakes that erupted mountainous volcanoes and etched out lakes and valleys. This upheaval ignited bursting hot springs and geysers, molded bubbling tar pits and marshes, and shrouded hidden oases and hideaways. While the land reshaped itself, a heavy, deep mist materialized, engulfing it all and shrouding one's ability to see more than a few feet in front of them. Species of creatures unknown to us, but resembling bits and pieces of our ancient fossilized animal kingdom, began emerging from the concealment of the vegetation and mist. Beasts as large as a house, both ferocious and benign, were reported to inhabit the thicket. All manner of zoological lineages began to thrive in this domain, from overgrown insects and unrecognizable rodents to unknown avians and mysterious inhabitants of the sea. This timeless world would become known on Earth as the Living Land realm, and we would learn that this reality was more alive than any other that had come to our world. When the first maelstrom bridges of the Living Land fell out of the sky onto Earth, a great army of giant lizardmen marched down the twisting spirals, across the massive interconnected vines that touched down on Earth, and began laying waste to any opposition in their path. Many of these reptilian humanoids were riding atop various species of unknown origin, resembling various dinosaurs such as Triceratops, the Tyrannosaurus, or even flying pterodactyl-like beasts. These soldiers may have only been armed with ancient weapons such as spears and knives made of wood and stone, but their greatest weapon was dominating reality. Ensuring that no other weapons but the most primitive kind would be useful, they devastated any opposition that relied on anything mechanical or metal. Anything more rudimentary than the very basic of handmade tools either decayed instantly or devolved into something primal and simple. With their superior hunting prowess, relationship with nature, and ties to spirituality, it did not take long for these invaders to conquer their territory and defeat the unprepared opposition. We soon learned that not all of these new life forms would be our enemies. Not long after the Living Land manifested, emissaries of the lizard people came forward to proclaim that not all of their kind supported the war that their tribal leader had declared upon our reality. These humanoid reptiles called themselves Edinos and proclaimed to come from the Cosm they called Taktakar, which translates literally as Living Land in their native tongue. Once they learned our language, they explained how their society was divided into clans, and that many of these groups are led by a tribal warlord who has appointed himself ruler of the various factions of Edinos, named Baruk Kaah. Once he secured his position as leader, he abused this unification by going to war with other Cosmos. This aggressive and destructive campaign has caused some of these clans to question their chieftain, as they view his expeditions as contrary to their spiritual philosophies and dedication to their goddess. It was through these ambassadors that we would learn of the axioms and world laws that defined and formulated a reality's distinctiveness. What the Living Land lacks in some progressions, such as their Stone Age level of tools, minimalistic social units, and near omission of magical endowment, the Cosm brings with it a metaphysical deity with a dedication of followers and omnipotent presence unmatched by any other invading reality. The Living Land has brought more than just a realm of prehistoric rebirth, but also a domain of inspired faith and dedicated worship to a deity known as Lanala, and with her the principles of the law of life. The Adinos revere her as a goddess of creation and rejuvenation, and her power is evident through the conviction of her worshippers to invoke miracles. The belief in her is so great that her power exists within all things in the living land, and even anoints devotees during transformation, creating true believers at whim. This law guarantees that life thrives in the realm by continually fertilizing and vitalizing all life forms within. This causes the biosphere to grow wildly and uncontrolled at rapid rates that only feeds the ever-increasing ecosystem. The realm invigorates the power of life so much, even injuries heal faster when inside its boundaries, especially when treated with care. Reverence of this entity is why some have turned from the death and destruction of their High Lord, as they view his leadership and conquests as a perversion of their faith's tenets of preserving and protecting life. It is this ism that inspired missionaries to come forward to humanity and give them these revelations so they can show respect for the life of core Earth by helping its defenders. Life in the living land is primal, brutal, and fierce. The archaic realm punctuates nature's timeless edict regarding the survival of the fittest through the world law of savagery. The more assertive, aggressive, and dominant one is, the more invigorated an individual becomes. When it is unleashed upon one's enemy or prey, the realm bestows strength upon the assailant, empowering the damage they cause. Among the ferocious primitive forces and ceaseless enrichment of growth, savagery and life prospered, manifesting the law of wonders. The most sporadic and unpredictable of all the Cosm's world laws, this precept makes the living land more alive than any other realm currently known. The law of wonders manifests all possibilities of life within its boundaries and pulls pockets of other cosms into it, creating portals and gateways to realms unknown and unimaginable. As these doorways fade in and out of these temporary crossings, the potential to get lost within them and never return is a risk all travelers across this realm take. North and Central America is the region of our planet that was invaded by Baruk Kaah and his forces. Territory was seized from the Great Lakes to Florida, stretching from the east coast going west to the heart of Indiana and Alabama. The eastern living land eroded away the modern world as the ancient one grew out of the decay. A week later, the second bridge from Tactikur came down, and the western living land stretched out thick jungle and impassable growth along the western seaboard from Morro Bay, California to north of Vancouver, British Columbia. Not long after securing a position on the west, a third bridge was dropped in Canada's Northwest Territories, securing a northern foothold of impenetrable wilderness. Finally, the last Maelstrom Bridge descended upon Chichen Itza in Mexico, dispersing its reality into the wilderness of the Gulf of Mexico's southern Yucatan tip. Storm Knights from the living land are either transformed humans who have become primitive, devolved representations of man's earlier stature, or one of the rebel Adinos working against the High Lord's machinations. The realm's evolved spirituality inspires devotees of life and Lanala, and they are privileged with an assortment of divine miracles to invoke, and can learn to call upon the deity to intervene and aid them. With the possibilities of life, savagery, and wonders behind you, you can create miracles and help core Earth fight off the invasion. It's up to you to show this world that not all inhabitants of the living land are here to destroy. Show core Earth that your realm can protect the possibilities of life and preserve the future for both your domains.